Is it possible for our consciousness to carry echoes of lives we haven't lived? To be born, maybe, with knowledge we never actually acquired? Today, we're doing a deep dive into one of the most, astonishing real-life investigations I've come across. It's the case of a young boy named Pedro from Brazil who suddenly began speaking fluent German with an authentic accent. And he wasn't just speaking German, he was claiming to be a man who died decades before. Now, our source for this is an in-depth video transcript really documenting this rigorous investigation. So our mission today is to unpack every layer, look at the details, the verification, the whole story.
Right. And it's crucial to understand this isn't just, some story someone told. We're talking about a deeply documented case here. It was scrutinized by experts, really pushed the boundaries of, scientific understanding. It shows just how verifiable these kinds of phenomena can sometimes be.
Okay, so let's get into it. The story kicks off in 2018. Curitiba, Brazil. We have Maria Santos preparing lunch. Her 3-year-old son, Pedro, is playing alone in his room. Pretty normal scene.
It's completely mundane, yeah.
Until Maria hears Pedro speaking. But it's not Portuguese. It's not baby talk. It's perfect, fluent German. And the accent, apparently spot on. The first words she clearly hears are, Wo ist meine Frau? Ich vermisse sie so sehr.
Which means, where's my wife? I miss her so much.
Exactly. And the shock for Maria, Pedro had zero exposure to German. None at all.
Yeah, from a developmental perspective, this is it's off the charts.
Yeah.
Acquiring a foreign language fluently with a specific regional accent without any exposure. It fundamentally challenges how we think language and memory work in kids. No German relatives, no German friends. They didn't even have cable TV. There was just no conventional way for him to learn this or to express that kind of specific, deep emotion.
Right. I miss my wife from a 3-year-old. And then the next thing he says is just as startling. In German, again, Ich bin Hans, 45 Jahre alt.
I am Hans, 45 years old.
A 3-year-old claiming to be a 45-year-old man. Maria must have been terrified. And it got stranger. He started having these alternating personalities. Mornings, he's Pedro, her normal Brazilian kid. Afternoons, he switches, only speaks German, talks about this whole other life, acts like he doesn't understand Portuguese.
Like a complete personality shift.
Yeah. And then there was physical evidence, too. Pedro started drawing, not kid drawings, but these incredibly detailed German-style houses, pointed roofs, specific window types, organized gardens, stuff that was just way too architecturally complex for a toddler. Maria, thankfully, started filming these moments. She needed proof.
And that filming was crucial, because when she showed it to their pediatrician, his reaction wasn't dismissive at all. He apparently said something like, "This is not normal, Maria. You need specialized help, urgently." That validation was so important. It moved it from a mother's worry to something needing serious investigation.
Absolutely. So that led Maria to Dr. Carlos Ferreira. He's a psychiatrist in Brazil, but one who specialized in these, inexplicable cases. He'd spent 20 years looking into paranormal phenomena, but even he apparently said he'd never seen anything like it.
Quite a statement from someone with that background.
So Dr. Carlos, who happened to be fluent in German, goes to meet Pedro, and the moment he starts speaking German to the boy, Pedro changes. He responds like an adult. His posture, his gestures, it wasn't a child talking anymore.
And the information Pedro gave then, that's where it gets really specific. He gives his full identity. He heißt Hans Müller, ich lebte in München.
My name is Hans Müller, I lived in Munich.
Yes, and not just Munich German, but with a distinct Munich accent from a specific period, which again raises that question. How does a Brazilian child spontaneously produce not just a language, but a regional dialect from decades ago?
Yeah.
With outdated phrases.
It's mind-boggling, and Pedro didn't stop there. He then drops this.
Ich starb 1987, ich war Ingenieur.
I died in 1987, I was an engineer. Imagine hearing that, a 3-year-old, telling you he's a dead German engineer. But the details kept coming. Astonishingly specific stuff about Hans's life, the company he worked for, his exact home address in Munich, Maximilianstrasse 45, his wife's name, Greta, even his car, a blue 1985 BMW. And he adds this little detail, Ich fuhr einen blauen BMW, Greta liebt Rosen.
I drove a blue BMW, Greta loved roses. Those small personal details are often significant in these cases.
So this clearly needed more than just local investigation. Dr. Carlos knew that.
Right. This is where the international collaboration becomes crucial for verification. He reached out to Dr. Klaus Weber in Germany. Dr. Weber specializes in reincarnation cases and has a very stringent methodology. He tries to verify every single claim against records, rule out fraud, cryptomnesia, everything conventional.
And what was Dr. Weber's reaction when he saw the videos of Pedro?
Utter shock, apparently. His first reaction was reportedly, "This is impossible." Because the German wasn't just fluent. It was that specific 1980s Munich dialect, including slang and expressions that had fallen out of use. That's incredibly hard, maybe impossible to fake, especially for a child with no exposure.
So Dr. Klaus starts digging, and importantly, he only used the information Pedro provided, nothing else.
Exactly. That's key for independent verification. He goes to Munich, checks the records, and he finds him. A civil engineer named Hans Müller, born 1942, died 1987 in a car accident.
Chilling. And the other details?
All matched. The address, Maximilianstrasse 45. His wife, Greta Müller. Records even confirmed he owned a blue 1985 BMW. Every single specific detail Pedro had mentioned checked out. Verified.
Wow.
Yeah. The sheer volume and specificity of verifiable details coming from a 3-year-old independently corroborated.
Yeah.
That's what makes this case stand out. It moves way beyond anecdote. This is documented empirical data points, essentially. Very intriguing from a scientific perspective.
And there was more with the house, right? Dr. Klaus sent photos.
Yes. He sent photos of the house at Maximilianstrasse 45. And Pedro, looking at a photo he'd presumably never seen before, points to a specific second-floor window and says, "Das war mein Büro. Ich arbeitete dort abends."
That was my office. I worked there every night.
Precisely. The level of recognition, the specific memory tied to a location.
So the investigation is getting deeper, the connection's stronger.
Yep.
But then they looked into Hans's death more closely.
Yes. Dr. Klaus wanted the full picture. He accessed the official medical and police records concerning the accident, found the exact date and time. March 15, 1987, 3:00 p.m. A head-on collision on the Autobahn A9 near Munich.
Yeah.
But then came the really disturbing discovery. Hans wasn't alone in the car. His wife, Greta, was with him, and she also died in the crash.
Oh no, both of them.
Both of them. And this is where it connects back to Pedro's very first words in German in a way that's just uncanny. The medical report stated Hans survived for a few minutes after the impact. He was conscious, calling Greta's name. His last words, recorded by the paramedics on scene, were, "Oh, mein Frau, ich vermisse Sie so sehr."
Oh, my wife, I miss her so much. The exact phrase Pedro used.
Exactly. The precise words.
How is that even possible? A 3-year-old in Brazil, 31 years later, saying the exact unpublicized last words of a man dying in Germany.
That's a million-dollar question, isn't it? It seriously challenges our models of how information, especially such personal, traumatic information, could possibly be transmitted.
And there was something about the timing too, right? Pedro's birthday.
Yes, Dr. Klaus did the calculation. Pedro was born March 18, 2015, which is exactly 28 years and 3 days after Hans Müller died on March 15, 1987.
Wow. That feels intentional almost, like a planned return.
The proximity is certainly noted in these kinds of investigations, and the emotional connections seem just as strong. When Dr. Carlos showed Pedro a photograph of Greta, the reaction was intense.
What happened?
He apparently burst into tears, real heart-wrenching sobs, repeating, "Greta, meine Liebe, warum bist du nicht hier?"
Greta, my love, why aren't you here?
The depth of that grief. Dr. Carlos described it as real, ancient, deep. Something impossible for a child that age to convincingly fake. It seemed like the genuine pain of a man mourning his lost wife.
Unbelievable. So after all this, they decided Pedro needed to go to Munich.
Yes. 6 months later, Dr. Klaus persuaded Maria, though she was understandably apprehensive. Pedro was 4 by then. A German documentary team actually funded the trip, wanting to film the investigation firsthand.
What was Pedro like on the way?
Apparently quite agitated on the plane, switching between Portuguese and German, almost like, two consciousnesses were struggling for control. But when they actually landed in Munich, something shifted. He just stopped speaking Portuguese completely. It was as if being physically back in Germany fully awakened the Hans personality.
Wow. And did he? Did you know where he was?
That was the first real test. They get into the taxi, and Pedro, this 4-year-old Brazilian boy, starts giving the driver directions in perfect German, navigating Munich streets like he lived there his whole life, saying things like, "Fahren Sie Maximilian? Ich kenne den Weg."
Drive to Maximilian, I know the way. The taxi driver must have been speechless.
Absolutely stunned, according to the reports. And when they got to Maximilianstrasse, Pedro gets out, looks around, and walks directly, unguided, to number 45. The house. Stops right in front of it, a place he'd never seen, in a city he'd never visited. And he cries out, "Mein Haus is so anders."
My house is so different.
Yeah, because obviously it had changed over 30 years.
Okay, stop right there. For anyone listening, just pause and think about that. A 4-year-old boy navigating a foreign city identifying a specific house.
And not just identifying it, he started pointing things out. The exact spot where the rose garden used to be. Remember, Greta loved roses. He pointed to the window of his old office again, showed them where the garage was where he parked his blue BMW. Details the current homeowner, who bought the house years later, confirmed were accurate based on old plans and photos.
That's incredible confirmation. But wasn't there something even more stunning inside the house?
Yes. This is perhaps one of the most evidential moments. Pedro goes inside, walks straight upstairs, knows exactly where he's going, enters what used to be Hans's office, goes to a specific corner of the room, points to a spot low on the wall, and says, "Hier ich versteckte meine Ehering, wenn ich arbeitete."
Which means...
Here I hid my wedding ring when I worked.
He hid his wedding ring while working. Okay.
The homeowner was there, watching all this, said they'd never noticed anything, never found anything there, but Pedro was insistent, so they pry off this small, loose wooden board in the wall where Pedro pointed. And inside, hidden away, was Hans Müller's gold wedding ring.
No way, after all those years.
Still there, undiscovered until Pedro pointed it out.
How do you even begin to explain that, knowing a secret hiding place like that?
You really can't, through conventional means. It's a classic example of the kind of specific, unusual knowledge often reported in these strong reincarnation cases.
Okay, the ring is just mind-blowing. But Dr. Klaus had one more test, right?
The cemetery, yes. The final and perhaps most emotionally charged test. Waldfriedhof Cemetery in Munich. It's huge. Thousands and thousands of graves. They took Pedro there. No map, no directions, no hints. Just let him walk.
And
he walked with purpose, like he knew exactly where he was going, through rows and rows of graves, until he suddenly stopped and explained, "Dort sie ist dort." There, she is there.
Where was he standing?
Right in front of two gravestones, side by side, marked. Hans Müller, 1942-1987, and Greta Müller, 1945-1987.
Oh my God, he found them, both of them.
He found them. And the reaction, it was devastating to watch. According to the reports, he just threw himself onto Greta's gravestone, sobbing uncontrollably, speaking to her in German.
What did you say?
Greta, warum hast du mir verlassen? Ich habe so lange gewartet. Ich bin zurückgekommen für dich.
Greta, why did you leave me? I waited so long. I came back for you. That's heartbreaking.
Utterly. Witnessing that raw, seemingly adult grief pouring out of a 4-year-old. For a woman he theoretically never knew, it really makes you question everything about memory, love, connection. Does it survive death?
Everyone there must have been reeling. Maria, the film crew.
Reports say Maria was weeping. The crew was stunned into silence. Even Dr. Klaus, the seasoned researcher, admitted he'd never encountered anything quite so powerful. But then Pedro did something else. Still there, at the graveside, he started sharing secrets, intimate details about Hans and Greta's life together, things not in any public record, things only they could have possibly known.
Like what?
Like Greta hatte Angst vor Gewittern. Greta was afraid of thunderstorms. Ich beruhigte sie, wenn es donnerte. Sie liebte es, wenn ich ein vor dem Schlafengehen sang. I comforted her when it thundered. She loved it when I sang to her before bed.
Wow, very personal things. Could they verify that?
Amazingly, yes. Dr. Klaus managed to track down Greta's sister, still living in Berlin. He relayed these specific details Pedro had mentioned. Her reaction. Total shock. She confirmed every single one. She apparently said, "This is impossible, only Hans could know these things. There were secrets between them."
Unbelievable corroboration. But wasn't there one more secret? Something even bigger?
Yes. The biggest revelation came right there at the cemetery. Pedro, still clutching Greta's gravestone, said something that changed the entire understanding of the tragedy. He said, "Wir wollten ein Baby haben. Greta war schwanger."
We wanted to have a baby. Greta was pregnant.
Exactly. A detail unknown to Dr. Klaus, not mentioned in the initial police reports he'd seen.
So what did Dr. Klaus do?
He went straight back to the hospital where Greta had been taken after the crash. Persisted, dug deeper into her medical records, and he found it. Confirmation. Greta Müller was indeed 8 weeks pregnant when she died. The baby hadn't survived the impact.
Oh, that's devastating. So it wasn't 2 lives lost, it was 3.
3 lives lost in that accident. A fact seemingly only Hans knew, now being revealed by Pedro, and it got even more specific. Pedro then said, "Greta wollte den Namen Klaus für unser Kind."
Greta wanted to name our son Klaus. Klaus, like Dr. Klaus.
His own name. He said hearing that sent a literal shiver down his spine, and then Pedro described the day of the crash itself, why they were on the road. They weren't just driving, they were rushing to an emergency appointment with an obstetrician. Greta felt something was wrong with the pregnancy.
An emergency appointment?
Yes. And Pedro even recounted Hans's last words of hope to Greta just before the collision. "Alles wird gut. Wir werden eine Family sein.
Everything will be fine. We will be a family. Oh, the tragic irony.
And Dr. Klaus checked. He contacted the hospital again. The records confirmed it. An emergency obstetrics appointment was scheduled for Hans and Greta Müller that day. They just never made it.
This entire sequence, the verification of the pregnancy, the name, the appointment, it's overwhelming evidence.
It really is. The convergence of so many specific, unusual, and later verified details is extremely compelling.
So after all this in Munich, what happened with Pedro? Did finding the grave, revealing the secrets, bring some peace?
Not immediately, it seems. He remained agitated, kept asking why Greta hadn't come back with him. He had this feeling she was trapped somewhere. He even described it. Gefangen wo, in der Nähe von Wasser, dort wo die Blumen wachsen.
Trapped where? Near the water, where the flowers grow. That's oddly specific.
It is, and Dr. Klaus started thinking about the medical details again. Greta hadn't died instantly. She was in a vegetative state for 3 days before being declared dead. He wondered, could her consciousness, her soul perhaps, have become trapped somehow? Stuck between worlds, unable to fully cross over after the trauma.
Is there any way to even investigate that?
Well, Dr. Klaus took an unusual approach. He started researching local paranormal reports in the Munich area over the past 28 years since the accident, and he found something remarkable. Dozens of reported sightings of a distressed blonde woman near Lake Starnberger Sea, specifically in a garden area known for its flowers, a place where Hans and Greta used to walk. A place Pedro had earlier spontaneously called Das ist unser Platz, that is our place. Apparently it was where Hans had proposed.
Wow. Sightings of a woman matching Greta's description in their special place.
Exactly. So Dr. Klaus decided they had to go there. Took Pedro to the lake.
What happened at the lake?
The drive itself was tense. Pedro got more and more agitated the closer they got. Kept saying, Sie ist da, ich kann sie fühlen. She is there. I can feel her. When they reached the garden by the lake, Pedro jumped out and ran. Directly to an area full of wild roses, he stopped and started talking. Greta, bist du da? Greta, are you there? And then he seemed to be having a conversation. He speaks German, then paused, listening intently, tears just streaming down his face. He asked, Warum kannst du nicht mitkommen? Why can't you come with me? And after another pause, his face changed, filled with a kind of sad understanding. Ich verstehe, du wartest auf unser Baby. I understand you are waiting for our baby.
He was talking to her and felt she was waiting for the baby.
That's what he reported. But here's another astonishing layer. Dr. Klaus had brought sensitive audio recording equipment, later analyzing the recordings from those moments at the lake. During the pauses when Pedro was supposedly listening, he detected faint whispers, almost inaudible, in German. A female voice, definitely not Pedro's, seemingly responded.
Whoa, audio evidence. Whispers.
Extremely faint, but sometimes called electronic voice phenomena, or EVP in parapsychology. Highly controversial, of course, but Dr. Klaus documented it. It prompted him to go back with even better equipment. He asked Pedro directly, ask Greta about the baby. Where is the baby?
And what was the answer Pedro relayed?
Pedro asked in German, listened, then translated. Das Baby ist schon hier. Das Baby ist geboren.
The baby is already here. The baby's born.
Yes. Yeah. And then came the part that really opened up a whole new dimension. Pedro continued translating Greta's supposed message. In Brazilian. Das Baby ist in Brasilien geboren. Gleichzeitig mit mir.
The baby was born in Brazil at the same time as me, meaning at the same time Pedro was born.
Simultaneously.
Yeah.
And Greta supposedly gave one more crucial detail. The baby had a heart-shaped birthmark on its left shoulder.
Okay, this is wild. Simultaneous reincarnation. A soul splitting. A baby born in Brazil at the same time as Pedro with a specific birthmark.
It raises profound questions. The idea of split incarnation, one soul manifesting in multiple bodies, or aspects of a soul complex reincarnating separately, it's a rare concept, but it has been hypothesized in some reincarnation research to explain certain interconnected cases.
So did Dr. Klaus try to find this baby?
He did. It seemed unbelievable, but he had the date, March 18, 2015, Pedro's birthday, the location Brazil, maybe Rio, and the specific identifier, heart-shaped birthmark, left shoulder. He launched a massive search, contacted hospitals in Brazil, requesting birth records matching those criteria. Took weeks.
And did he find anything?
He found a match. Sofia Oliveira, born March 18, 2015, at 3:30 p.m., the exact same time Pedro was recorded as being born, at Hospital Maternidade at San Lucas in Rio. And yes, hospital records confirmed a distinct heart-shaped birthmark on her left shoulder.
That is statistically impossible to be a coincidence, surely.
The odds are astronomically low. But it got even stranger. Dr. Klaus contacted Sofia's mother, Carla, explaining the situation carefully. And Carla's response. She wasn't entirely surprised. She said her daughter, Sofia, was also different. Said strange things sometimes, talked about missing someone she called Papai Hans, and drew pictures of a man and woman she labeled Hans and Greta.
Sofia was doing this too, mentioning Hans.
Yes, two children, born at the exact same time, continents apart, one seemingly channeling Hans, the other showing connections to Hans and Greta and carrying the predicted birthmark.
So they had to meet Pedro and Sofia.
It seemed essential. Dr. Klaus arranged it. A neutral location, a park in Rio de Janeiro. Pedro and Sofia, both 4 years old now, meeting for the very first time.
What happened when they saw each other?
It was immediate and deeply emotional. Pedro saw Sofia, ran straight to her, and hugged her like he'd known her his entire life. Sofia, who her mother said was normally very shy, hugged him back instantly. No hesitation. Then Sofia cried out, "Papa Hans!" And Pedro, tears just pouring down his face, whispered to her, "Mein Baby, mein kleines Baby."
My baby, my little baby. Oh my goodness.
The connection was palpable, instantaneous, almost magical to witness, according to the observers.
Yeah.
Pedro started speaking German words to Sofia, words she'd never heard, and she repeated them perfectly, as if the language was just dormant within her, waiting for him.
Wow. And did Sofia mention Greta?
She did. She
Yeah.
looked at Pedro and asked, "Mama Greta." And Pedro's response was so poignant. "Sie wartet auf uns, sie wird kommen." She is waiting for us, she will come.
Like they both understood Greta was still present somehow.
It seemed that way. But the most definitive moment, maybe, came with paper and pencil. Sofia took them, drew 3 simple figures, a man, a woman, a small child, labeled them Hans, Greta, baby. Then she drew a line connecting all 3. And underneath, she wrote one word, in German, a language she supposedly didn't know, family.
Family. Written in German by a 4-year-old Brazilian girl who'd never learned it.
Yeah, that moment seemed to crystallize everything for Dr. Klaus.
What was his final conclusion then? How did he make sense of all this?
His theory became that Hans's soul, or consciousness, had indeed split upon death, possibly due to the trauma and the intense focus on both Greta and the lost baby. Part became Pedro carrying the adult memories, the trauma of the accident, the deep love and longing for Greta. The other part became Sofia embodying the essence, the potential of the unborn child they lost. And Greta. Her spirit remained connected, perhaps waiting in the in-between space Pedro sensed, waiting for her husband and her child, now manifest in Pedro and Sofia, to find each other and acknowledge the family unit.
A split soul, finding reunion through reincarnation. It's an extraordinary idea.
It is, and it seemed their reunion had a profound effect.
What happened after Pedro and Sofia met?
Over the next 6 months, remarkable changes occurred. Pedro gradually stopped speaking German. The intense Hans memories began to fade. It was as if, having found Sofia, having acknowledged the baby, Hans's mission was complete. His soul could move on. Similarly, Sofia stopped talking about Papai Hans. She settled into be a normal, happy child. And perhaps most telling, the reported sightings of the blonde woman, of Greta near the lake in Munich, they stopped completely.
So the family found peace.
That's the belief. That finally the fragmented parts found wholeness. Hans reunited with the essence of his child in Sofia, Pedro freed to be himself, and Greta perhaps finally able to move on, her waiting over, the family acknowledged and connected across the veil. A resolution, finally, after decades.
What an incredible journey we've just traced. Hans, Greta, Pedro, Sofia, their lives woven together across continents, across death itself. The level of corroborated detail is just staggering.
It truly is. And it connects to a larger body of research, like the work done for decades at the University of Virginia's Division of Perceptual Studies, examining cases suggestive of reincarnation. This case, with its multiple interlocking pieces of verifiable evidence, the language, the memories, the birthmark, the hidden object, the emotional resonance, it really does challenge our fundamental assumptions about consciousness, memory, and connection.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What is consciousness? Where do memories reside? How powerful are the bonds of love?
Exactly. It compels us to ask big questions about life, death, and what might endure beyond our physical existence.
So, a final thought for you listening right now. If a connection like the one between Hans, Greta, and their child could be this profound, this persistent, strong enough to apparently split a soul, cross continents, trigger memories in young children, and ultimately reunite them, what does that suggest about the connections you have in your life? About the potential reach and power of love and loss? So what other mysteries of the human spirit are just waiting for us to uncover? Maybe some bonds, some stories truly are strong enough to defy death itself. Maybe love really does find a way.